You're not living in the world. You're living in your mind. And the most shocking part? This world you call reality was built with patterns that aren't even yours. Thoth knew this. Jacobo Grinberg proved it. And now, science is starting to admit it. Reality responds to the frequency you emit, not to logic, not to effort. And here comes the first delivery. If you change this right here, right now, a new field starts to form around you. It's invisible. It's measurable. And it's the only reason why some people manage to change their lives, while others stay stuck in the same reality year after year. But no one told you this before. Why? Because once you understand this mechanism, you can never be manipulated again. And today, you're going to learn how to use it, step by step. At the end of this video, I'll give you the 3-minute ritual that activates the transition point from mind to field. But this ritual only works if you understand the previous layers, and one of them was deliberately erased from history. So breathe, focus, and listen closely. Because if you leave halfway through, the field understands that you're not ready yet. But if you stay until the end, reality starts to change with you inside it. You will separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the dense, gently and with great ingenuity. What's behind the reality you live in isn't random. There's a hidden structure that silently responds to everything you think, feel, and emit. The ancients knew this. The initiates lived it. But now, science is beginning to touch the veil of this forgotten truth. Jacobo Grinberg gave a name to this structure: Latis. But what is the lattice? It's not a thing. It's not a place. It's a field, a living field, an invisible web that holds up the reality you experience every day. Everything that seems solid, separate, concrete, is actually immersed in this sea of vibration that responds to your mind like a quantum mirror in real time. Latis isn't outside of you. It runs through everything. It's the subtle foundation of what we call reality. But be aware, it doesn't react to what you say. It responds to what you vibrate. This field doesn't speak the language of words. It speaks the language of frequencies. And here, modern science starts to catch up with what ancient masters have taught for millennia. Bruce Lipton showed that our emotions and beliefs directly affect the behavior of cells. Joe Dispenza proved in the lab that elevated mental states alter brain and physiological patterns. And in quantum physics, the observer experiment revealed that the mere presence of consciousness can alter particle behavior. In other words, your perception shapes the world. Your consciousness interacts with lattice and imprints a form onto it. An image. A reality. But this idea, which now seems revolutionary, was already written in the Hermetic schools of antiquity. Thoth, the Atlantean master, described a subtle substance that preceded all creation. He called it the unmanifested space, a vibrational ocean where everything was potentially contained, but nothing had yet become visible. It's the same that the Corpus Hermeticum calls Nous, the primordial divine mind, the source of everything, the original matrix where the world is dreamed before it is seen. In alchemy, this field was called prima materia, the spiritual raw material. It wasn't lead, as many literally believe. It was pure vibrational chaos, waiting for an intention strong enough to become form. And that shaper of form is you. The human mind, when awakened, becomes the tool that shapes the lattice. It becomes the alchemical fire that acts upon the invisible to generate the visible, not through magic, but through sustained vibration. But what does that mean in practice? It means you don't live inside a reality that happens by chance. You're immersed in a matrix that responds to the way you organize yourself internally. Every emotion you repeat, every thought you feed, every belief you reinforce. All of that becomes energetic commands that shape the field around you. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are, vibrationally speaking. And that vibration doesn't come from what you say out loud. It comes from what you carry inside, in silence. It comes from what you've accepted as truth, from the way you feel about life, about money, about love, about time. All of that becomes invisible geometry in the Latis, and that geometry becomes circumstance, experience, result. What you live is the echo of what you emit. And now you understand why life seems to repeat patterns. Because the Latis is receiving the same signals from your mind, day after day. And like a faithful quantum mirror, it returns exactly what you've sent, with mathematical precision. But not all is lost. The hidden discovery in the labs, the mind that transforms matter. The mind doesn't just interpret the world, it literally interferes with it. But now, more than just ancient words or sacred codes, we have science placing sensors, electrodes, and data into what, for centuries, seemed too mystical to be measured. The HeartMath Institute was one of the first research centers to prove that emotions like gratitude, compassion, and elevated love generate a state of coherence between the brain and the heart. But the most impressive part? This coherence alters the electromagnetic field surrounding the human body. A real, measurable field that extends up to 3 meters beyond the skin. This is not a metaphor. It's science. At the same time, Richard Davidson from the University of Wisconsin studied for years the brains of Buddhist monks who had meditated for thousands of hours. And what did he find? Something extraordinary. The left prefrontal cortex of these meditators, the part of the brain linked to decision-making, future vision, and resilient optimism, was significantly more developed than that of ordinary people. Elevated emotion and sustained focus aren't just subjective emotional states. They're neurological trainings, and that changes everything. The bridge between the invisible and the physical is starting to become solid. Now think with me. If emotion alters the field, if focus changes the brain, if the mind alters the body, then the body, the field, and reality are ultimately responses to what's happening inside you. And here, the ancient texts come back into the picture. Hermes Trismegistus wrote, "The soul acts upon matter through vibration." And what modern science is measuring with devices, charts, and resonance is exactly that. What used to be sacred is now measurable. What was hidden is now documented. But for the initiates, this was never new. Thoth already taught that the key to transforming the external world begins with the internal alignment between body, mind, and spirit. He called this alignment the manifestation circuit, a state in which vital energy circulates without blockages, where the physical body becomes a pure antenna, where the mind stops being a repeater of the past and becomes a transmitter of the future. And this state doesn't happen by chance. It arises when you bring together 2 specific forces, elevated emotion and focused intention. Together, they generate an internal combustion that spiritual alchemy called subtle fire. Not a fire that burns on the outside, but a vibrational heat that transmutes your internal density, that dissolves old patterns, that begins to rewrite your energy field as if it were a scroll of light. It's at this point that everything starts to respond differently. The body heals, ideas align, synchronicities appear. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you changed the signal you're emitting. You begin to feel, almost tangibly, that you're no longer just reacting to the world. You're influencing what happens to you. You're perceiving life from a higher, clearer, more present place. But attention. As transformative as this may be, there's still one missing ingredient. a silent key that connects everything we've talked about so far to what truly allows continuous manifestation. And without it, everything that's been activated inside you begins to fade. And that's exactly where most people get lost. Because even knowing all of this, even knowing about the Latis, even reading about emotional coherence, about the electromagnetic field, about vibrational intention, still, nothing changes. Life goes on in the same cycle, the same people, the same patterns, the same repetitions. Why? Because what's missing is the most neglected element of all: vibrational integrity. It's no use thinking positively if, inside, you vibrate fear. It's no use visualizing abundance if, deep down, you feel scarcity. It's no use repeating affirmations if your energy contradicts every word. Reality doesn't respond to what you wish for with your mouth. It responds to what you sustain with your body, with your emotion, with your presence. This is where the invisible mistake lives that keeps millions of people stuck in the same place. They think one thing, feel another, act in the opposite direction, and expect the universe to respond with clarity. But the universe doesn't understand contradiction. It reads vibration, and when the vibration is fragmented, the field gets scrambled. Latis, instead of returning a clear manifestation, returns confusion, noise, instability, because that's what you emitted, even without realizing it. And it's at this point that spirituality becomes practice, because here, transformation isn't about learning more, it's about aligning what's already inside. And that requires radical honesty. Because it's no use repeating, "I trust the universe," if, in a crisis, you panic. It's no use saying, "I am prosperous," if, when looking at your bank statement, your body tightens and your frequency drops. This is where most people get stuck, the fragmentation of intention. And when intention is divided, it loses strength. It becomes shallow, ineffective. The thought says, "I want to change," but the emotion is addicted to suffering. The body is used to tension, and the subconscious is anchored in a past that still pulses as the present. The Kabbalion already warned with precision, to master the universe, you must first master your inner vibrations. And here the universe is not the sky out there. It's the microcosm within you. This invisible space that carries the memories, the traumas, the habits, the impulses. That's what vibrates when you're on autopilot, and that's what reality reads. Thoth taught that true creation doesn't come from noise, it comes from what he called the silent word. What you think in silence, but with such coherent emotion that it echoes in the field like a command. This word doesn't need to be spoken. It vibrates. And this is how what the alchemists called the unifying fire is born. A vibrational state where thought, emotion, and body come into congruence. They become a single beam of energy, a single pulse, a single direction. And when that happens, the field obeys. Reality has no choice. Because you've stopped being a receiver and become a conscious transmitter. That's how the lead of repetition turns into the gold of manifestation. But no one talks about this, because it's hard work, because it requires self-knowledge, because it asks you to feel what you've avoided feeling, to look at the fear you try to hide, to acknowledge the discomfort instead of running from it. Because only then is it possible to reorganize the frequency you're transmitting. The secret of directional focus, the mind that breaks logic. When you discover that the world is responding to what you vibrate, you can no longer ignore how you feel. You begin to understand that change is not about effort, it's about state. It's not about trying to control what happens outside, but about activating a coherent vibration within. And there is a practical, real, measurable key that gives immediate access to this state. Modern science calls it cardiac coherence. But the ancients already knew this long ago. In the initiatic temples of Egypt, before a disciple could access any teaching, they were trained to enter a specific state, harmony between heart and mind. Because only in this state does knowledge stop being information and become transformation. Today, with heart monitors, graphs, and sensors, what is measured in laboratories is exactly what Thoth taught in the stone halls of the mystery schools. The coherent vibration between feeling and thought changes everything. And it can be done with a simple gesture, breathing. But it's not just any breathing. It's rhythmic, conscious breathing, connected to emotion. It's as if you're teaching your body to tune into a specific frequency. A frequency of gratitude, for example, or love, or presence. Breathe. 4 seconds to inhale, 4 seconds to exhale. Feel your heart. Place your hands on your chest. Imagine you are breathing through it. Feel the air entering and leaving, as if you're creating an inner space. A vibrational temple inside you. And now, remember something you love deeply. It doesn't matter what. It could be a moment, a place, a person, a time when you felt peace, wholeness, safety. Bring that memory with as much detail as possible. See it, hear it, feel it, live it again. This real emotion, combined with the breath, creates a new pattern of brainwaves. Studies have shown that in this state, the brain enters high organization. Alpha waves and even gamma waves become dominant, and this directly affects the nervous system, hormone production, and the magnetic field you emit. The practice of cardiac coherence is what Hermeticism calls mastery of rhythm. The fifth Hermetic principle states that everything vibrates in cycles, and that the one who masters rhythm can alter the course of events. This is not a metaphor, it's practice. When you consciously alter the rhythm of your breath and your emotion, you alter the rhythm of your vibration. And with that, you alter the direction of your reality. It's not about believing, it's about experiencing, it's about feeling. And when you repeat this practice every day, even for a few minutes, something begins to happen. Your mind, once scattered, starts to organize. Your thoughts become clearer. Your decisions more conscious, your body lighter, and life begins to respond. You begin to attract different people, more aligned situations, unexpected solutions. Because now you're no longer emitting noise, you're emitting a signal. And the universe responds to the signal with precision. This is what turns knowledge into real power. It's not enough to know. You have to enter that state, train, sustain, repeat, and it's at this point that everything starts to change in silence. But silence is not the absence of movement, it's focus. And what you focus on grows. The universe responds to what you sustain with continuous attention, not with effort, not with anxiety, but with consistency. This is the least explored and most powerful secret of the mind. Directional focus. It's not just imagining, it's fixing, sustaining an inner image with so much feeling, so much clarity, so much permanence, that the image begins to gain density. It descends from the mind to the field, from the field to the body, from the body to reality, and science confirms it. Studies on neuroplasticity show that the brain is not static. It reconfigures based on what you repeat with attention. When you focus daily on a clear image, a specific feeling, a symbol with intention, new neural connections begin to form. The brain literally shapes itself based on what you contemplate. Deep meditative practice, used for millennia in spiritual traditions of both East and West, has always had one thing in common: sustaining focus. It doesn't matter whether it's on the breath, a candle flame, a sacred figure, a mantra, or even emptiness. The goal has always been the same: mastering the mind's fluctuations and turning them into a laser. And Thoth already taught this in the mystery schools of Egypt. He said that the universe is shaped by the light of attention, and that anything you sustain with enough presence becomes alive. He called this fixing the light, the same thing alchemical traditions called coagulating intention, because loose intention evaporates. Sustained intention crystallizes. In Hermeticism, this principle appears as correspondence. What is held above manifests below. What you fix in the mind reveals itself in the physical plane, but only if you don't scatter. And here comes one of the most overlooked secrets: the use of symbols. Symbols are doors, anchors, codes. When you choose a symbol that represents the vibrational state you want to reach, you create a fixed point of intention. This symbol could be a fractal, a sigil, a geometric seal, a shape that connects you to what you want to embody. The alchemists used symbols in everything, in formulas, maps, rituals, tablets, because they knew that the symbol operates in the language the unconscious understands, the imaginal, archetypal, vibrational language. And when you look at this symbol every day with attention, breathe with it, feel with it, project with it, your mind starts to learn a new state, a new rhythm, a new alignment. And that state, if sustained, begins to replace old patterns. You don't need to change everything at once. You only need to keep your focus on a single vibrational image, a scene, a sensation, a future memory you choose to experience, not a distant fantasy, but an energetic reality you already feel now. It's like sculpting reality from the inside out. Each day you shape a fragment, a stroke, an outline, and before you know it, it has become inevitable. But for this to work, you must break the habit of dispersion, because the ordinary mind jumps all the time. Past, future, doubt, distraction, comparison, overload. And each jump breaks the field. Every distraction undoes the alignment, and focus is lost. The mind sleeps, but the field listens. Nighttime reprogramming. Even while asleep, your mind keeps transmitting. The body rests, but the field listens. And what it hears is exactly what you left echoing before falling asleep. Science calls this state the alpha zone, that brief window between wakefulness and sleep, when the rational mind begins to loosen control and the unconscious opens like a fertile field. In that moment, everything you feel, think, or repeat enters directly as a code into the deepest programming of your being. And this isn't theory, it's technique. 3 minutes before falling asleep. 3 elements: a clear statement, a defined image, a real emotion. When those 3 align, you imprint a new vibrational code into your system. The unconscious mind doesn't question, it doesn't judge, it doesn't assess logic, it simply records and repeats. That's why everything said, felt, or imagined with emotional force in that moment has the power to shape the invisible architecture of reality. Thoth knew this thousands of years ago. In the esoteric manuscripts that survived from ancient Egypt, the night was called the reverse portal, a sacred period when the veils between worlds grew thin and the soul, free from the density of the body, could travel between planes, reweaving the threads of future experience. And Thoth describes it precisely. During sleep, the soul doesn't rest. It works. It travels. It plants. It seeds forms that will later bloom as events, meetings, healing, and transformation. In the language of alchemy, this practice was called activating the sal philosophorum, the hidden salt, a vibrational, invisible substance that served as the condensation point of matter. Whatever was imprinted into that salt would take form at the right time. And the most impactful part, this 3-minute ritual can be done by anyone, on any night. No tools, no external formulas, just presence, clarity, feeling. But what happens when these 3 elements, mind, image, and emotion, fully merge goes beyond what science can explain? Because there are accounts that defy every known law. In a simple room, without scalpel, without anesthesia, without technology, just a woman, eyes closed, hands over the body of a stranger, and an incision that appears as if by magic. Tissues rearrange, blood flows, organs are replaced. This is not a folk tale. It's a documented experiment. Jacobo Grinberg, neuroscientist and mystic, studied the Mexican healer Pachita for years. Under his observation, she performed surgeries without instruments, accessing an altered state of consciousness where everything became possible. And Grinberg concluded that, in those moments, she merged with what he called the Latis, the invisible mesh that connects all of reality. In that state, there was no separation between thought and matter. Everything was an extension of intention. But Pachita wasn't just an exception. She was proof. Proof that, in specific states of consciousness, the mind can operate directly on the fabric of reality. And the most unsettling part is that these states can be accessed, they can be mapped, they can be reproduced. In the Kabbalistic tradition, this is the state of Kether, the highest point on the tree of life, where the self touches the creative source and becomes, for a moment, the field itself. Thoth described this fusion as the union between the operator and the creative frequency. He said, "The one who no longer desires, but simply vibrates, becomes the channel through which the universe creates effortlessly." And in the language of alchemy, this moment is known as conjunction. When the alchemist and the matter become one body, one field, one vibration. The 21-day ritual, the agreement with the field. The field doesn't respond to empty promises. It recognizes structure. It recognizes rhythm. That's why the ritual needs a complete cycle, 21 days without breaks. This is not a random number. The ancient Hermeticists already knew. Reality is shaped in spirals, not straight lines. Each 7-day cycle restructures a different layer of your vibration, body, emotion, and mind. By the end of 21, something changes. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. That's why the protocol is not arbitrary. It's a vibrational agreement, a commitment with the invisible. Each morning, you activate emotional coherence through rhythmic breathing and the evocation of a real state of gratitude. Not faked, truly felt. During the day, you maintain focus on a single symbol. It could be a sigil, a fractal, an intuitive drawing. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it represents your new state. This symbol acts as an anchor, a reminder to your field of where you chose to vibrate from. And at night, as the mind begins to relax and the portal of the subconscious opens, you perform the nighttime ritual. Repeat your affirmation. Activate the image with your eyes closed and feel in your body the emotion of it already fulfilled. Throughout the day, you take conscious pauses. You breathe, go silent, and ask yourself, am I aligned with what I chose to manifest? Or did I get lost in autopilot? These pauses are recalibrations, acts of presence, moments where the field is reminded that a new code is being sustained. And this is not law of attraction. This is applied vibrational physics, the mind as transmitter, the body as resonator, the field as receiver. The Heart Math Institute measured these variations. Neuroscience has already demonstrated how neuroplasticity responds to coherent and continuous stimulus. Quantum physics, with all its complex metaphors, still agrees. The observer changes the observed. But in alchemy, this process is known as the opus magnum, the great work. A precise sequence of internal actions, repeated with intention and presence, that transforms the lead of inertia into the gold of real possibility. Thoth said, "It is not what you wish that creates, it is what you sustain." And 21 days sustaining a new code is the minimum time needed to break old patterns and install a coherent, stable, active vibration. This cycle is, in truth, a pact, an energetic agreement between you and the all. But there's one final detail, and that detail changes everything, because only those who truly understood what Grinberg proposed can cross this threshold with full awareness. Grinberg didn't finish his mission. He disappeared, vanished without a trace. But before that, he wrote one final hypothesis that was never published. He said, "At a certain point in the practice, the operator dissolves into the field, and there is no more logic, no separation, no language. That is the point of no return. The moment when you stop being someone trying to create and become the field itself, creating through you. This is where everything connects. Mind, emotion, intention, biology, field, one single vibration, one single flow. The page is blank. But now, you hold the pencil. You understood the mechanisms, felt them in your body, activated the practice, lived the process. And now, you have the map." Thoth ends his tablets with a warning that is not a threat. It's a reminder. Become the creator of your form. Master of your light. This is the true purpose of initiatic alchemy. Not to turn literal lead into gold, but to transform the reactive human into a conscious co-creator, aware of their influence on the invisible. You are the intention that took shape. You are the vibration moving in form. And now that you know, the universe begins to listen differently. But it will only respond if you take the lead. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you recognized the truth vibrating behind every word. So tell me in the comments, what part resonated with you the most? Or simply write, "I am the conscious reflection," just so I know you stayed until the end, and that you're ready to use this power. And hey, if you want to help this channel keep spreading these messages that don't reach anywhere in the algorithm, I left a special link in the first pinned comment. Any contribution, no matter how small, means a lot to me and to the growth of this project. But just the fact that you watched until here already changes everything, because that's what strengthens this field we're creating together. If you want to help even more, share this video with someone who's ready to awaken. Maybe that's all they needed to remember who they are. And now, don't leave just yet. I've saved a special video with the continuation of this journey. Just click on the screen. I'll see you there.